Welcome back to ZA Confidential, the podcasts where quite often we taste wine and sometimes we enjoy it. And today I was inspired, and I don't often get inspired by Woolworths because they mainly annoy me, but I was inspired by a Woolworths notice that they have decided to put some what they call premium wines into boxes and sell them in 2 litre packs. So rushed off to my local Woolies, bought a few of these boxes, got some of my best friends to buy boxes as well, and that's what we're tasting. The first wine we're tasting is the Tranqille Blush, Tranquil spelt with 2 L's and an E. I'm not sure why they're so pretentious at Woolworths these days, but maybe they're trying to be French. It's by Pierra Jordaan, which can be pronounced in many ways, depending on whether or not you're a Huguenot or an Afrikaner. They are from Franschhoek. Joining me on the tasting, we have Dwayne Newman from Cover Advisory, who is one of those people who helps business to get money out of government, which is not always that easy. And we have Mike Schussler, who is one of our best known economists. I sometimes say notorious, but then he hits me. So let's just call him best known. But to introduce the tasting, we have our food and wine guru, the man of many talents, many of them very well hidden, Michael Olivier. Hi, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so, for the benefit of our viewers, listeners, and other victims, this is what the box looks like, an ugly little tap on the side, which it took me a little bit of effort to get out. But having done so, I poured a stream of wine into my glass. Michael is going to tell us whether it's any good. Michael.
John, Pierra Jordaan Tranquille meaning still. And it's really a still version of Cap Classique. It is a blend of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
For our international listeners, Cap Classique is the thing that South Africans are allowed to call their champagne.
Yeah, absolutely. 60% Pinot Noir, 40% Chardonnay. It's got a lovely sort of pink gold color. You can buy this direct from the estate in the bottle format as well. I must say, having tasted together the bottle and this wine, there is absolutely no difference at all. The Chardonnay provides the structure of the wine, and the Pinot Noir gives you that lovely sort of berry, almost like the muscle on the skeleton. Nice aroma. You can get both the Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay there quite clearly. And then the palate, is quite zippy from entry. And you've got this lovely line of acidity going right through back into the long aftertaste, and sort of berries, mainly red, sort of raspberry, pomegranate, cherry kind of berry. A little bit of the sort of forest floor whiffs and tastes that you get there as well. I think this is a stunning wine, and it's a sort of wine really that you can drink as a mid-morning refresher, great as an aperitif, and maybe leading into a meal where you could start with a smoked fish pate or some trout or salmon. And then, of course, main course is a nice piece of simply fried hake with butter and lemon and parsley would be perfect.
Well, you've certainly got me salivating, Michael, as usual. I enjoyed the wine. I find it lovely and dry and approachable and crisp. And I suppose one of the reasons why we are tasting these wines in a box is something that you referred to. Are they as good as wines in bottles? And why on earth is Woolworths selling what they themselves seem to describe as a premium wine, a good wine, a non-plonk in a box?
No, look, I think people are, I mean, your snifferati and spitterati are never going to buy a box of wine from anybody, let alone Woolworths. But I think your average wine drinker is looking for great value, great wine, whether it comes in a bag in a box, whether it comes in a can. They're absolutely acceptable, and there's certainly nothing wrong with this Pierra Jordaan Tranqille.
I agree. Dwayne Newman, are you enjoying it?
John, yeah, I think it's a really nice wine for a Saturday morning when it's really hot. Okay, so I think it goes down really well. I'm not sure I agree with Michael on people would still buy good quality wine in a box. Okay, I mean, I think a box has still got a certain label on it. Okay, so I think Woolworths will have, I think, a hard time convincing, well, me to buy this in a box. I mean, I would never have bought this wine in a box. Okay, not in a million years. Okay, now does that put me as a wine snob or a snifferati or whatever Michael wants to call? I mean, I don't think so. Do I like really good quality wines? The answer is yes. So, I mean, I think it's an interesting marketing ploy by Woolworths, and maybe it is pulling up people who would buy cheaper box wine and moving up the price point. Okay, so maybe there's a strategy around that. But I would never buy this wine in a box. Doesn't matter how good it is.
Well, Dwayne, I think it's time you started thinking out of the box.
Sorry, John. Yeah, I'm a box thinker. Sorry about that.
Well, Mike, you've been to Boxburg. What do you think?
Well, I love this wine. I think the box idea is very good. I think the strategy is different, though. I have lots of respect for Dwayne. He's one of the best analysts in this country. But I think the strategy here is that we have probably wine lakes. And with the lockdown, COVID, and the struggle to export, the closing of bars and restaurants around the world, it's probably impacted a lot. And I think if you look at this wine, and particularly the next wine that I know we're going to have, they've become very popular. And now the thing is to move more of this wine is going to take a next step up. And that step is to get people to buy more volume on the one side. Yes, I agree that it might move some people from the box wines into better wines, but I think there's a strategy more than that on this. I don't think it matters that much. I think in many areas in the world today, you find that people are going for the screw top bottles. Box wines are selling in places like Sweden. It was time that they move up. I think Woolies has had a long time period where they've had that organic wine. I don't know, maybe Michael can help us who produces that, but it is good. And you know, if you have a few friends over, it's a very effective way of buying. The pricing point is so much lower. I'm not sure how much a bottle of Pierra Jordaan costs in, but I think it's probably about 90 Rand or odd.
Actually 60 Rand from the estate.
60 Rand from the estate. But right, this is 190 Rand so it works out about 70 Rand a bottle. But I'm not sure how much it costs in a bottle store. So it's moving it, and it makes sense. I think you will see, I think, in future that there'll be more ways to buy things. I mean, and young people today are very experimental. If we look at the broader picture, they grow up on artificial friendship, if you wish, on the computer, and they talk on Discord, and they WhatsApp each other, and all those sort of things. So I think this is just another step in that direction, just that it concerns wine. But I agree with Dwayne in one sense. Yes, if I have a special occasion, if I have somebody I'd like to impress as a business thing, I want a real bottle of wine. And I don't think I expect this in a restaurant. But where I do expect it is next to the poolside, or at my braai, because it makes 100% sense to me. I didn't know the bottles were that cheap at the estate, but I thought this would probably be a very good pricing point for most people to have. And I think if you look at it, this is not being sold to restaurants. This is being sold to the general public. And I love the wine.
Mark, maybe there's a question. I mean, interesting enough, I mean, there obviously is a drive to, I mean, I get trying to get rid of the wines that they probably haven't been able to sell. But I mean, is there a responsibility issue here around selling wines in larger, I suppose, vessels? Okay, so 2 liters is bigger than 750. So we've seen that in the, I suppose, the beverage, the normal Coca-Cola beverage process, is that some of these big brands have been trying to upsell you, but the health conscious sector is trying to nearly downsell you. So is there a risk here that you're like encouraging people to drink more because now you need to drink a whole 2 liter as opposed to a 750 bottle?
Well, let's assume you have friends over for a braai. I think, you know, hopefully the friends are responsible, but the fact of the matter is, if you have 6 or 7 friends over, one of these boxes is going to do it, maybe 2 even, you know, depending on how much your friends drink. But I think, you know, let's all face reality. When I have a braai here, people don't only drink 1 bottle. You know, I end up with 6, 7 bottles at the end of the time that people bought. And I think this is yeah, the responsibility is another factor I didn't look at, maybe. But I think, you know, overall, if you're not really driving far or you've Ubered, then I don't think there's anything really irresponsible to it. You know, I haven't really thought of the upselling in terms of just volume. I think what it is also is it is a different pricing point for people where they feel they're getting a different set of values. It is helping the South African wine industry, I think. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think, you know, if I remember back, my first box wine was a Tussie's. And if you remember, they used to come in quite big bottles. And it was told that Jonas Savimbi used to drink it and used to be his favorite wine. So for some time period, I thought it was a great wine until I learned about other wines. And, you know, so that for me was an entry point. If somebody gets this as an entry point, where do they march off to? You know, they must be a lot gladder they get this wine than a Tussie's. And I think today, if I look at Clarinet Select from Robertson's, I look at some other box wines, I look at wines that they tell me they only sell the Douglas Green Merlot Malbec. They only sell into the restaurant trade. You have to get a special order from a bottle store to get it. So I think, you know, the wine industry is differentiating. And many, and we'll talk about that in the next one, but many, many popular wines in South Africa have gone a very big route. I think if you go and look at Chateau Libertas, for many years, Chateau Libertas was the restaurant wine. And it became ever bigger bottles. And now it's no longer in a restaurant so much as, for example, one of the other wines that we'll taste later on. And I think there's a reason for that, because the pricing point became an issue for the restaurateur.
Okay, Mike, thanks a lot for all that. Unfortunately, thanks to Mr. Schussler, we are now out of time. But just before we go, and do tune in for our next discussion on box wine, which we will be having, I'd like Michael Olivier just to remind us of what we're drinking and come up with any final thoughts.
Yeah, look, it's the Pierra Jordaan Tranqille Blush. Taco Wine van Arnhem is making some seriously good wines on the Haute Cabrières wine estate. I think this wine is utterly delicious. And I don't think that there's a responsibility issue either with Woolworths or, you know, with the household. It's simply, instead of 2 bottles, it's a box. And I think we've got to move away from this issue of it's a box, it's a screw cap, it's a can, so therefore it can't be as good as anything in the bottle. 1 in 5 Australian households has a box of wine in its fridge. I'm not sure what the Swedish story is, but I know that they drink a lot of bag-in-box wine from South Africa. I think this is a great move on Alan Mullins, who is the Woolworths wine consultant, a great move on his part. And I hope that he'll produce a couple more quite soon.
Well, Michael, thank you very much indeed. Thanks also to Dwayne Newman and to Mike Schusser, and thanks to all of you for listening and watching to this podcast, which sadly was not sponsored by Woolworths. We had to buy the bloody stuff ourselves. I'm John Fraser, and this is ZA Confidential.